that's out there, and they are launching next weekend. So watch out. They will all go, when it happens. But I'm not allowed to say any more. I'm not involved, actually, so I probably could just break it, but no.
But maybe not. You'll get an angry letter come through.
I'll get a slap wrist from somebody at Porsche. A slap text message. Look at that. Just some of the faces and names on our feed, on our Zoom feed that monitors every single driver that's logged on to the server. Anybody who's on the server, you can see there's quite a few drivers in there that are not driving, and there are others that are driving. If you're in the server in rFactor 2, you must have your camera on, and that is to monitor who is doing what, and then also to provide us with images as well.
This is still close, isn't it? This battle for second. I am surprised, though, Ben, since we had this swap over of drivers, that the gap has actually extended to Brzezinski. I don't know if this is a strategy thing that we are seeing.
Information to the pit lane.
If not.
Information to the pit lane. 1 second stop and go penalty on car 12 for a contact with car 97 at the exit of T2. Car 12 rejoined in a dangerous way. 1 second stop and go penalty on car 12 for causing a collision with car 97.
So that is the MPI Zansho number 12.
Cedar Vijay, isn't it?
Cedar Vijay aboard. Stop go penalty will put them behind, I think, the FARB All in Sports car of Rubens Barrichello at the wheel right now. 18th in class.
They've not done bad, have they? Since being put back in the race, I've got to say.
Yeah, exactly. And a little bit confusing on, if you are looking at live timing, ignore the gaps, because it does say that they are 71 laps behind. Actually, the laps is what you want to be looking at there, and they are just a single lap behind MPI. And then the two Jotas. Can you imagine? Jota Team Redline, 15th and 16th. It's just not been Redline's day whatsoever.
I mean, I thought 38 car was going to win this. I really did. Rudy Van Buren out there in 15th place.
Fastest lap of the race for him.
Yeah, just actually going to set that as well on lap number 333. So, yeah, that was the last lap. So, there you go. That's just an example of the pace they could have. But as Martin Haven was saying during the night, sometimes Le Mans chooses its winners. And it seems today that Le Mans did not decide that they wanted to give the Jota Team Redline 38 car a chance of winning this race.
Oh, he's been pulling out all of those.
Oh, of course.
All the stock phrases for Le Mans.
Yeah. It was, well, we were in it right in the thick of the night. I was commentating with Martin from, I don't know, something like midnight till 3 in the morning. Or
about that, well, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So I heard many. And one thing that he did particularly find fascinating was the graphics of the game, and it was like listening to a granddad who is who's just seen a HD TV for the first time.
He put his glasses on. Oh, that's what it looks like. He's not
going to like me for that, is he?
He's going to be storming down those steps straight away. It is true, though. I've had the same experience with a couple of very, very well-known commentators that have done nothing in the virtual world up until this lockdown. And again, it is exactly the same thing.
It's not like how it was on PlayStation 1.
Yeah, this looks so amazing. Like, wow, it's so realistic.
There's a person in the car.
What I really love is there's a certain David Anderson, you probably know his name.
Yes, of course.
And David, before the whole thing, was like, oh, sim racing, no, I don't like sim racing. And then, of course, when SRO got involved, and he was the voice, or is the voice of SRO and needed to be part of it, he kind of said, yeah, okay, but I don't like technology, it's a bit tickly. At least here, Martin doesn't have to rig his own microphone and get his old stream working. And lots of grumbling. And after the first race, he went, wow, I love this. And you're like, as somebody who loves sim racing already, I kind of patted myself on the back and went, yes, another convertee. Yeah. And hopefully there's many of you out there who've perhaps never watched sim racing before and have been drawn in thanks to WEC organisation and this Le Mans 24-hour virtual, and you've gone, God, no, this is really good. And do you know what? If you've liked this, there are races, short sprint races and long endurance races, streamed all over the place every single day of the week on different platforms. So you can have so much more of this. And I know that, for instance, Martin's heavily involved in an FIA WTCR event that will start broadcasting literally 15 minutes after we finish here. So not quite sure how he's going to do the commentary, but there's, you know, W series are streaming theirs, and actually they're streaming theirs on linear TV, on BBC, for instance, have got
yes.
that as well. So there's so much more that you can enjoy and watch, and it is just racing. The cars may not be real, but the tracks may not be real, but the racing is real, and the humans behind them, I'm going to add that to Jimmy's analogy,
yes.
the humans behind them are real as well.
One thing I was going to say as well is you don't, with sim racing, unlike motorsport where we have to wait until the weekend to go racing, that is not always the case. I'll retract that just slightly, but usually, of course, we go racing on the weekends. In sim racing, we can go racing any day we like.
Hallelujah, I say, because it does mean we can have commentary gigs 6 days, 7 days a week.
It's not been bad for people like us, is it?
And you can actually do 2 as well.
Yeah.
So you're like, one's at lunchtime and one in the evening.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Love it. Love it. And it provides us entertainment.
When's your next one?
Chat show on Monday.
Yeah.
And they've got the week off, actually. Perfect. I kind of need it.
I'm on tomorrow.
Yeah.
The Isolation Series.
And again on linear TV.
I don't know how I'm going to be awake for it, but thankfully it is on in the evening.
Sleeping in the bus. Oh, traffic in just the wrong point here for Simoncic. Really hard to get past GT traffic through the Porsche curves, and when you've got a slower LMP1 car in front of you as well, he's lost a bundle of time there to Mark Gassner just ahead. The gap now out to 2.5 seconds, and though Gassner into the pits here. Brzezinski's in the pits, Gassner in the pits, the top 2, but crucially Simoncic has somehow managed to do an extra lap again. Now, is this going to be significant as we get later on the race? We need somebody who's a bit better at maths and a bit of time to work out how this is all going to play, but presumably Simoncic and the Bike Collars team are aiming to try and stretch it as much as possible so that they don't have to do a splash and dash at the end. Whether that's going to be possible, we need somebody on that strategy computer.
We need Mr. McNish, but I'm not too sure where he is.
They're all chilling out.
I hear we're hearing lunch is nice, so maybe
that's where they are.
McNish has gone to get himself some food.
Bonap to Le Monde in the catering downstairs. That was a horribly English accent. My wife would be very upset. Louis Delatraz has taken over the #1 machine, the leading car. So back to real-world drivers in that car after a huge stint of the sim drivers. And he's going to have to fight off the attention of Simoncic, who will be going to the pits at the end of this lap. He has taken over the lead by dint of the strategy kind of playing out, and we expect Mark Gassner to hand over, and he has handed over. He's handed over back to Romanidis. Now that's a bit of a surprise, because I'm pretty sure Romanidis was in the car most of the time I was commentating in the middle of the night, and so he can't have that much left in his stint lengths. Again, we need to get that computer over here, but Romanidis in the 13 Rebellion Williams eSport, and should take back the second position, but he's going to have Simoncic on his tail, and let's see how he gets on with the man who set the pole position chasing him down.
It's going to be a very intriguing last 2 hours through this race. I've got to say, it's really great to see that we all thought that this race was going to be very good. We didn't really know what to expect. All we knew is it was pretty much the best grid we have ever had in a motorsport event ever, given the circumstances. But we do have a race on for the lead, and we're into the final 2 hours. So I'd say that is very positive for the Le Mans 24-hour virtual and to the event, and how well it's been put together. And clearly the event has worked, because we're seeing a great race for the lead developing.
In our studio here in Studio Gabriel, the Signatech Alpine machine driven by Pierre Rag right now. IDEX Sport also, I think, aboard their car right now. So both of our simulators in the studio in Paris. Paul-Luc Chatin is aboard the IDEX Sport car. He's in 10th position. So actually they've done a really good job, considering I keep looking at that sim and going, there's nobody in it. Are they okay? Of course, they've got 2 drivers outside
man
here.
is in it. Yeah.
And so Chatin now aboard the 10 in IDEX Sport, and then there is the Signatech Alpine. Yeah, so that's Signatech Alpine's driver, and that is Pierre Rag. Very lonely race for them. They've had a bit more issues, but standout moment for me was Andre Negrão going into pit lane and pushing his old mate Nico Lapierre into his pit box, so Lapierre could continue in the race, having run out of fuel. 10 meters away from his pit box. It was a lovely moment. That was a heartwarming kind of Le Mans-esque thing to happen.
That was the spirit of the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual, wasn't it?
Yeah,
because
yes.
That's something you can do. I mean, you wouldn't really be able to do that or get away with doing that in Le Mans, because you know, you could pick up some damage to your car. But as someone who has raced for the Signatech team, it was great to see that they'd gone in and pushed the team back to their pit box, because that was a very frustrating moment, wasn't it, to be so close, it literally in the pit lane and then run out of fuel. It was very frustrating, but a great moment in this race.
Great to, yes, they are changing tyres in every stop, Stockers. Thanks very much for your question. Kind of obligatory, really. They do have the option to run the medium and the hard compound, but they couldn't really make the hard compound fast enough to do a double, and the medium compound wouldn't stretch for a double stint as well without lasting. So soft tyres it is, and a single stinting every single time. Finish this sentence. You don't win Le Mans Virtual. Le Mans Virtual chooses...
Who wins?
Who wins? Or you.
Or you. Yeah. Wow, that's bad, isn't it? That's bad.
That's good. I like that. Thank you very much to Colin Steer, who has commented and says, I am one of those converts. I've been watching various other races on Sky Sports F1, plus their virtual series. And Le Mans has been so much better due to damage and penalties being dished out for drive-throughs. And I think this is one of the key things. Gerard Neveu and his organisation here at WEC have put together a race control like it would be at the real Le Mans. And therefore, it means that all of these drivers are now taking it seriously to a level that they would do if they were competing at the real Le Mans. If there is no punishable if there's no way to punish bad driving, then drivers will just drive badly.
Yeah.
Here, we are punishing things that are bad and are going wrong, and therefore our full WEC race control setup is monitoring everything. And literally they are constantly rewinding on different cars, checking things to see what's been going on and dishing out penalties. And invariably, it has been beautifully, beautifully handled. Here is... ooh, dearie me.
That's the Mahler car, yeah.
That's the Mahler car.
What happened there? Jimmy Broadbent's in the car for them at the moment, or was. It's now rotting in the car, and that is a big off through the Porsche curves.
It looked like it was kind of continuing to hook right, and it wouldn't hook left, like almost the wheel jammed up for a second, and he couldn't steer to the left-hand side. But that car has been seriously troubled. Such a shame for the guys at Mahler, who usually are supporting BS Competition, and BS Competition kind of running that car and getting drivers involved there. You're supposed to have Jamie Chadwick,
yes,
the W Series champion, but Jamie's not necessarily adapted to sim racing quite in the same way that she's adapted to real world racing.
Right.
Running kind of mid-pack in the W Series championship that Biska Viska won the first couple of rounds. Amazingly won the same at the same time as racing in the IMSA Pilot Challenge. She managed to drive in the IMSA Pilot Challenge in the top 6 and have an accident with Jimmy Broadbent, and also win the W Series at the same time. So, quite sure how that works. I kind of do know how that works, because they're running the W Series recorded so that they can put it out at a favourable time during peak hours, rather than, and then therefore can't necessarily get the drivers at that same time. So pit stop strategy happening right now. Loads and loads of pit stops. for both the LMPs, but also for the GTs. 1 hour 45 remaining. So let's do the maths then quickly. 35, 70, 105, 140.
Where does that take you to? That's over 2 hours.
That's over 2 hours, so I've gone too far. Alan, we need you.
105.
I can't do strategy on my own. Can't do maths on my own.
You'll get there.
Thank you, Chris.
You'll get there.
125, isn't it? So 125 would be 3 stops left. And we're at 144 right now. So, yeah, there is like half a stint in it right now for the LMPs. Really, I'm not even sure that Simoncic saving a lap is going to help him either. It's really kind of, there is a need for maybe there's a need for a medium stop. Maybe you could do the last stint with not changing tyres and go mediums for the last stint. You still have to fuel up, but perhaps that's a possibility. It's going to get fascinating at the end. Josh Rogers, though, has a different dilemma because the GT cars are on a completely different stint pattern. They're able to do 14, 15 laps, and therefore there's a whole different mathematical equation going on there. All of the GT cars came in together, all of them back out onto circuit, waiting to see the gap between Tommy Usgaard, who's now in the 93, and Matthias Besch, who is in the Corvette Romain Grosjean car, because I think it's getting close to a lap now. And you know, that's not actually very common in GTs at Le Mans. They tend to be very, very close all of the time. But I just think that this car, 93, has really had the solid performance throughout the race, not put a foot wrong, not had any incidents. And Tommy Usgaard now going through Arnage. So no incidents at the moment, Chris.
Well, not for Richard Bradley down there. He's been on the radio saying he has some rear left damage that coming in, and Martin just delivering that info to us as he heads back on to the stage now. So it seems that there are problems for the IDEC car here, and they may be in for a stop very shortly.
Yeah, and we were also into this point as well. It's not just about tyres and fuel and trying to get your strategy sorted. It's also minimum maximum driver lengths. So you don't want to put a driver into the car that is going to do a full stint and then run over their maximum driver length. So Richard Bradley, who's in our studio right now, will only do 4 laps in this stint because that is just to allow the other drivers to get to their stints without going over it. So lots of maths are about to happen. This is about to get very, very strategic and perhaps a little bit complex for us. So we'll get Alan Manish back into the commentary booth to do all of the clever bits. And we can work out to make sure who is in the car and who is not in the car. But Josh Rogers, Nick Tandy, Tommy Usgaard, and who is that 4th driver in that car? Ayhan Guven, of course. Gosh,
yes.
That was a team, wasn't it? That really was a team.
Yeah, very strong team.
They are looking like they're coming up to being a lap ahead of Matthias Besch. It's going to be 15 seconds before the gap between Usgaard and Besch on track, with Besch ahead, Tommy Usgaard behind, but coming up to lap him.
It's great stuff from Delatraz because he's got 2 sim racing pros behind him now with Romanidis and Simoncic, and he's keeping that gap around 30 seconds, 28 to Romanidis and 34 to Simoncic, as that is who we are seeing on screen. In fact, I think that might be the Team Rocket Sancho car that we are seeing there, Ben.
You may have been enjoying our reunions throughout the 24-hour race, and this is going to be the creme de la creme. Alan Manish, Tom Christensen, and Dindo Capello.
This is a bit like one of our parties. I've got 2 of my favourite friends, 2 of my best ever teammates here with me, Dindo Capello, Tom Christensen. How are you guys?
Good.
Tommy boy, we spoke yesterday, but Dindo, whereabouts are you?
Very, very good. But I love you so much that I cancel my Sunday bicycle ride to be with you now. I should be on the bicycle at the moment.
Just so you know, Dindo, I've seen all these of a bicycle, but it's only ever in the garage. He never cycles anywhere, but he always looks fantastic in the garage. What do you think, Tom? Is that true?
I have heard he cycles a little bit to all the wineries, lovely wineries in his beautiful area around Alessandria, and he takes quite some breaks. And it's not only wine breaks; it's also coffee breaks.
God, when you think back, the first time that I was in Le Mans was '97. Tom, you were there '96. Dindo '99. Is that correct?
Yes.
So since then, would we ever have believed that we were going to be sitting with 50 cars racing at Le Mans in 37 different countries around the world, and we would be sitting there watching it as if it was a real live race? It was never in my theory, that's for sure. One of you? Dindo?
Yeah, it's something really, really unbelievable. I got so many messages from friends, from fans, that they said it looks fantastic. It seems to be really in a real race, and it's really, really unique. I never believe as well that at one stage of our career we could watch a virtual race which looks exactly like a real one.
The only thing I was thinking, Tom, was it's probably not for, our generation. We were the ones of sort of, the different sort of atmosphere about it, but it could be one for our kids. You reckon the Capello, McNish, Christensen lineup could be regenerated for maybe the 2021 edition?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. There's no doubt that the kids love the game and they have a sensation more to it than we have, and I would like to support them doing that. And I see some are doing it really good and really consistent. When you start to go in and see how they place the car and the lap times, they are really doing an outstanding job. And of course, putting the professional, very good racing drivers under pressure in this game. And I think that's just that's a new platform, and there's no doubt that it's here to get even better. And the graphics, like Dindo said, is unbelievable. The shadows of the car and the night. I mean, I was so impressed with how to see reality of the race in the night. I will also like, still, obviously, maybe we can make a pensionist club and having a kind of drivers, a little bit of race, but maybe not 24 hours. Maybe we can have a short one.
24 minutes.
Broken equipment.
Here, Dindo, one thing is, when I look at the background there of Tom's picture, it's of the 2005 victory in Le Mans. It reminded me of some of the other stories that we had, and Tom and I spoke yesterday with Dr. Ulrich, and we were talking about when our junior car put our cars up on the blocks, you remember, after we put eggs and things onto their windscreen. But one story I think that everybody would really like is when you were in the Danish camp in the 2008 edition, and you foresaw the future of what was going to happen after one of the hardest ever 24 hours, what you told the Danish crowd.
Yeah, that was something, it came in my mind on the stage, because to be honest, I didn't know what to say, something funny to say. At one stage I was thinking about the circus, about the lions jumping in the ring, and then I said, after qualifying, Peugeot was much faster than us. On the paper, I would say we had no chance to win that race, and then I said, but at the circus, for a lion, it's quite easy to jump through a ring with fire. Could be not so difficult to jump through 2 rings on fire, even on 3. But to jump on 4 rings on fire, that would be almost impossible. And then the day after, we won the race, and that was a statement which really now, 12 years later, I still remember quite well, and I'm quite proud about what I said on the stage of the Danish camp at that time.
I think there's probably 50,000 Danes that were quite proud, but Tom and I thought it very funny, obviously, with the logo of Peugeot being the lion and the logo of Audi being the 4 rings. It was absolutely perfect. Very well delivered, and thankfully you were correct at the end, by the way. and we managed to pull that victory off. But are you going to be watching the end of this race?
I will watch it to the end. I think it's incredibly close now, but for the overall victory between the Rebellion Williams and Collins, it's very interesting, and I will watch it till the end. I didn't watch it all night, but I woke up a few times and having to do my little things, what you have to do at my age, and there I just switched on and watched it a bit.
And Dindo?
And yeah, for sure I will watch the end of the race, but I would like to say that the car looks fantastic. But even you are almost like a little bit more fat than you are in real, but you are not too bad. You are not too bad. You look really real.
I'm breathing in now. Is that better? Yeah, okay, I've gained 2 kilos. Thanks very much for your confidence-inspiring boost there, Dindo. It's been beautiful to speak to you and also Tom. And here, we've got to meet up very soon. And let's do it at Le Mans in September, guys.
But you are always with me, look. Can you see that?
Oh, wow. That's the 08.
Yeah. TK,
But I thought that was
Alan McNish, always with me.
Yeah, but where's your signature, Dindo? Where's your signature?
It's, you can see, in the top.
Ah, okay.
Here? The light is not so good. The light is not so good.
Dindo, Tom, it's lovely to see you both. Enjoy the rest of the race and look forward to seeing you soon. Stay safe, guys.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, bye.
Legends of Le Mans following this first virtual edition of the 24 Hours of Le Mans and being drawn in and sucked in and enjoying it just as much as they would do in the real world, although unfortunately not all together. We're still recreating those fantastic moments, that great banter between people who have spent so much time together at the Circuit de la Sarre. A pleasure as always to hear from Dindo and Tom Christensen, and of course Alan McNish as well, conducting our intros. But Alan, we need you to do the strategy for us. Please come and do some maths, because we're starting to get to a point now where I think it really matters as the 98 Aston Martin goes round. Who's aboard that one right now? Darren Turner still aboard that. Interesting that Darren isn't using his rig. Perhaps Aston Martin will be able to give us a little insight as to why they've changed the setup over there at Base Performance. And he's unfortunately quite far down. 11th position behind Pereira in Team Project One. Charles Leclerc is aboard the Ferrari number 52 behind Stoltz in the 51. Other names such as Giancarlo Fisichella in the 54 car. Saw him a little bit earlier. And Matt Campbell is aboard the 92 Porsche, just behind Matthias Besch. Besch is being chased down by Tommy Husgaard to have a full lap put between the Corvette and the Porsche at the head of the field.
Fantastic as we get into the final 90 minutes there, and a quick rundown from Ben there of the current situation in this race. And as he went through that, Alan is quickly working out some strategy for us as well to see exactly what the situation is in terms of our leaders, because of course we have a close battle for the lead in LMP2, 34 seconds between the top three. Not the case in GTE though. 3.5 minutes between the top two there alone. And some little battles we can keep an eye out on, like Loic Hartog trying to chase down Terzic.
Now, we were speculating, Chris, whether Romanidis would be able to keep pace with Simoncic, but that gap's growing.
Yeah,
he's done an amazing job.
He's done a very, very good job, has Romanidis, to extend that gap. He's now starting to slowly bring the gap down, isn't he? Romanidis, the 16-year-old from Greece, has made appearances in F1 Esports and the Race All-Star Series as well. So only a young driver is Romanidis, like many of the drivers out there. That was Charles Leclerc getting in a little bit of bother, running a little bit wide, and I think I don't know if that was another car coincidentally doing the same, but Charles Leclerc now. Cars trying to go either side as he heads up towards Porsche curves.
And this is a battle for position, would you believe it? Charles Leclerc in 16th position, Danny Guisa for Team Project One in 17th spot. 0.2 of a second or that separate them. Danny Guisa, a very well-known pro sim racer, and within 2 car lengths of Charles Leclerc, who really has struggled to adapt his driving style to this, having spent a lot of time and getting decent performances out of F1 2019, a whole different ball game, and Charles loses a spot to Danny Guisa. It's not been a good day for Ferrari generally, because the guys like Enzo Benito and David Tonizza you'd expect to be way up there, but it hasn't really worked out for Antonio Giovinazzi and Charles Leclerc either. Alan's with us.
Yeah, just coming back to it. It's been pretty interesting, hasn't it, how the dynamic of the race has changed again since it's restarted. And the guys at the front are delivering really, really well. Just looking at it, they're roughly on the same strategies, but the ByKolles is very slightly different in that right now. And so they've got about 28 laps to go. But if you take the performances of everybody so far, then it is the #1 car that should lead, but it's going to be within 10 seconds with the number 13 right behind.
So how many laps are they into the stint this time then?
7 laps into the stint, and they've got about 28 to go.
Yeah, so
and
they've got they've got a half a stint there.
Yeah, it is. And you know, you've got a very small effect of putting another lap's worth of fuel at 7 litres, give or take. So, you know, that is less than a second. So it's not going to be a stint difference in terms of pit stop. And so you know, it's a kind of clearish run to the flag. However, saying that, if you're under 10 seconds and over 28 laps, and then you multiply it by the number of corners, it's something like 0.003 of a tenth of a second per corner. And so you get to a situation that it can be very easily won or lost just with a little bit of traffic. And especially with the number of cars that are on the circuit still, that's a big factor here, is there are more cars still in the race than there would in a real race. And hence the reason that I think traffic's going to play a bigger factor leading into the last part of it. And
Lewis McLeod will be able to answer this question when he comes back into the studio, probably better than all of us. But I'll be interested to see if there's something different you can do with the tyres on that half a stint. Could you perhaps go onto a tyre that will last a bit longer, but save you from needing to change on that last pit stop? It doesn't save you a huge amount of time though, does it? It's only about 12 seconds.
No, I mean, I wouldn't think that would happen, but I think it would maybe more come down to fuel. But as we get closer to that, as you said, it would be interesting to see. I imagine Lewis might be already reaching out to some of the guys he knows within those teams to see if he can find out what's going on there. But
if it was a race where you had a different sort of tyre effect and wear and everything else, and I think you would normally want to only ever change the rears, for example, in the LMP2, the one that takes a bit of a kicking, because that then halves your time that you need to gain to overcompensate the loss. Thing about it is, now the circuit's gaining grip as well, and so therefore it's a little bit cleaner and everything else, and so you tend to be able to take more of it out of a new tyre, but you can also last a lot better on a used tyre. And so for half a stint, personally, I would be doing everything to try and avoid any tyre change.
Now you say that, right, we've got Romanidis and Simoncic in particular, very quick on R-Factor 2. Romanidis has appeared across 2 different platforms in terms of the Simcade stuff with F1 and then R-Factor 2 as well. So those guys would be a lot more comfortable coming in and just changing the rears than Louis Delatraz would. However, the teams have put a lot of preparation into this, and I'm sure that they would have done plenty of practice of coming in, just changing the rears and going straight back out again.
The other thing, of course, to consider is not putting a driver into the car that has less than 30 minutes remaining on his driver time, because you want to be able to have the driver do a full stint. If you have to pit them a couple of laps before that stint length is over, you then, well, I suppose you can play with it a little bit, because you don't have to do that half a stint at the end of the race. You could do it at any point into this point now and maybe get yourself out of sequence with the rest.
Yeah, in the game, to be honest, And when I say in the game, I mean just generally, you would do that if you were the second or third car because you want to try and offset to gain some advantage back. If you're leading, then you don't. You certainly don't. You run to the end, run to the end, run to the end, because you never know as well if there is a possibility of a red flag or a full course yellow. And if you're in the pits trying to offset yourself, then you've suddenly lost everything that you've worked for over 346 laps to now.
And Louis Delatraz has a healthy advantage, so no risks really needed there. It's really the battle between Romanidis and Simoncic for second. We've also got a battle by the looks of things with Veloce Esports 1 coming out just behind Devin Browner in the 2Cs Motorsport car. That looks like the gap is only a couple of seconds. It is an outlap for Jarno Opmeer. Once upon a time a Renault Formula 1 driver, and actually has raced in the real world in Formula Renault, Chris, I believe. Opmeer?
Jarno Opmeer, I believe so. I would just say my laptop is just kind of packed up on me, actually.
I wasn't asking your laptop, Chris, I was asking your brain.
There we go. Yeah, Jarno Opmeer, I wouldn't like to stab a guess, but I'd say a lot of these drivers came in with particularly some sort there was a lot of drivers in the sim world that have had, you know, GT experience or single-seater experience or more predominantly karting experience as well.
I'm going to save Chris from under that bus that Ben is trying to wrestle him under, and just refer you back. I've had a Simon Strang Aston Martin reply. You were asking how come they weren't using the big rig. Well, they stopped using the big rig yesterday because of lag on the server. So they sent the drivers home to use their own rigs and to sleep in their own beds. So he says the sim is working fine, but the server couldn't cope with their big rig. So there you go. That's the reason that Aston Martin have dispersed to all 4 wins, mostly around Oxfordshire.
Thank you, Martin.
And that's good because, I mean, imagine we saw Simon Pagenaud having to change rigs. No, they've got they were only planning on using 1. Now they've got to go and find 3 at home and get all the setup sorted for that.
Well, he's now telling me, by the way, it was always the plan.
Okay, well, there you go.
Well, I don't know.
Well, what I was going to say, and I guess it might be an irrelevant point, but we haven't done this race before. This is the first time we are doing it, so it wouldn't be strange for people to be making changes like that halfway through a race.
On the fly, no, exactly right. And we've talked about this all the way through. Everything about this is groundbreaking. It is pushing the limits of rFactor 2. It is pushing the limits of motorsport games capabilities. It is pushing the limits of drivers and teams to work together in isolation. I was just chatting to John-Eric Van, and he was saying it's actually, you know, your engineer's on when you're in the sim, he's in your headphones the whole time. That's quite normal. It's an LMP2 car, so it's relatively what he's used to. He said the odd thing is when you get out and there's your cat.
Yeah, well, we had the dog earlier on in the stream licking one of our sim drivers' faces.
Yeah.
And we've seen various sim racing events where screens have been turned off by daughters, all things like that. There was I think it's one of the races I commentated on, the middle screen turned itself off. The side screens were working fine, but the middle screen of one of the drivers turned itself off, so he could completely not see where he was supposed to be going.
Well, he could look out the side window.
We had a great slide there from Fernando Alonso, who's back in the FA RB All-in Sports car, going through the Ford chicane, getting it all crossed up, but being able to save it without throwing it in the Kittelitzer. So that was really, really cool to see, and a nice little slow-mo. There is Jarno Opmeer. He's sharing the car with Pierre Gasly, who has been sharing the sim rig with Jean-Eric Verne at either one of their houses here in Paris. And I have seen that a certain Jean-Eric Verne is been wandering around our studio, so he's obviously not going to do any more driving, and he's come down to check out the hub here at Studio Gabriel, and he's now talking to Hayley Edmonds.
Hi, so I'm joined here by Jean-Eric Verne, driver of the number 24 car. Not right now, obviously, because you're here in the studio. That's Veloce Esports 1 car, also 2 times Formula E champion, ambassador and co-owner of Veloce Esports. So firstly, can you just tell us how this has gone for you? And just to stipulate, you haven't been practicing here. You've been at your home, but you're just down the road, so you just thought you'd come to the studio.
Exactly. As a shot, I would come and say a huge congratulations for the whole team, because I'm very, very impressed with the organization and how everything run very smoothly. I think the only 2 glitches that we had is no more than rain in Le Mans, or changing the barrier. So it's all part of Le Mans, and I really loved that race. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I just want to congratulate everybody here.
So you've got previous experience in the LMP2 car, you competed on ELMS. I mean, was that an advantage or a hindrance as you were competing in an LMP2 car here?
I don't think it was an advantage, because some drivers are overtaking in places that normally you will never overtake in real life, and drivers of the real life in Le Mans know that you don't overtake in this corner. It's too dangerous. But in here, yeah, it was very difficult at the beginning, and I have to say that I was stressing out a lot more than in the real life, because you don't have the vibrations, you don't have the same noise, and all of a sudden you find yourself sweating, and you feel your heart, racing super fast, and you don't have the same control. At least for me, I don't have the same control in e-sport than I have in my own car. So I got overtaken a few times in some areas that it would have never happened in real life.
It must be so surreal to be participating in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, albeit virtual, at home. Having all these emotions as if you're in a real race, then kind of ending your stint and then having a cat by you.
It's absolutely. I mean, I loved it. It was really nice, and we are always on Discord with our team. We are engineering our car ourselves, so we've been doing the last 3 week testing and trying everything ourselves. I've been doing the engineer during the night, so I didn't sleep. I was spotter. I was the spotter for the other guys. I hope the strategy that I made is going to work, because we decided as a team to undercut them, to fight for P4. So we see if that pays out at the end.
And just with regards to your Formula E experience and the fact that you work a lot with sims and on this platform, albeit a different, obviously, model. I mean, has that helped you at all?
Not really. I mean, Formula E game is also on rFactor 2, but it's completely different car model. And yeah, not here to speak about the Formula E races that I've done. Didn't go very well for me, but still I enjoyed it. It was good for the fans to be able to give the fans something to watch, something to look forward to, and I think it really made me realize how much I'm missing racing. And although esports is a lovely thing, and especially now with the technology that we have, I just can't wait to be back racing, because I really miss it now.
Yeah, I can imagine. And just the last word on the fact that you kind of teamed up with Pierre Gasly, your friend. How was that?
Yeah, it's good. It's been up to speed very quickly. I think Pierre and I had the same pace. Probably was a little bit faster. When I was watching his stint, maybe he was taking a little bit more risk as well. I was always on the radio telling him, be careful, track limits, please, be careful. We don't want to drive through. But it's been fantastic, and I really hope that one day he will do Le Mans. If we can do it together, that would be the best thing. And I think now, from what he told me, is that he would love to do Le Mans, because it gives a very good impression of what the real Le Mans is, even through esport.
Well, that's what André Lotterer was saying. He said, he thinks that all drivers that are going to compete in Le Mans should do this and play this, because it really gets you prepared for 24 hours of pure endurance racing. Yeah.
No, absolutely, he's right. I never done that before my first Le Mans 3 years ago. Maybe if I would have done a race like this, I could have understood a little bit more things, but I will not change the fact that the first time I arrived in Le Mans was a complete unknown for me, and it was beautiful actually. The first time driving at night in the real car. I'm happy I didn't have the experience I got from eSport, but I think for some drivers, especially the gentleman driver, because the gentleman driver can race in Le Mans, and they are very important for the Le Mans spirit. I think they should be doing a race like this, because it helped them a lot with traffic, especially with the LMP cars overtaking them in GT. Maybe it would be a mandatory thing for them, or even for the fun. It's a nice race. I hope next year they're going to be a race again like this.
So, Jean-Éric, as a Frenchman, 24 Hours of Le Mans.
I like the way you say Jean-Éric.
I know, and I was just worried about slipping into French then. Yeah, I mean, what does it represent to you, this legendary race?
To me, it's the race I enjoy the most doing in my life. There is one race that I haven't done that I wish to do one day is Indianapolis, 500 miles. But I love it. Every time, I think the saddest day I have in the season is the Monday after Le Mans, because we have to wait one more year to get it, especially when it's a race that didn't go well. To me, it's the best race in the year for myself.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you to you.
Thank you.
Merci à les deux. Thank you very much to Haley and to Jean-Eric Vergne. And little laugh from Ben and from me, actually. The saddest day of the year is the Monday after Le Mans, when you know you're not going to be back for another year. I think he's absolutely hit the nail on the head there, hasn't he?
And with the emotions of the tiredness of the 2 weeks build up to it for the drivers, and at least a week's build up for us as media, absolutely amplifies the way you feel as well. And if you have decided to go out and party on a Sunday night, it's even worse. So many of the drivers like to let their hair down or their beard down, perhaps. Jean-Eric's getting a lot of appreciation for his lockdown beard.
Yeah.
It's normally quite a good beard anyway, to be fair, but...
what he hasn't done is gone full Nicky Team on the hair, so it is just a beard. And he said the moment that he is told he's heading towards a race car, the beard is going back down to the normal kind of designer stubble level. So I said, yeah, well, that's a good couple of kilos off the driver weight. So he said, yeah, at least. In fact, to be honest, his cat may be in there still. Who can possibly tell?
That is his cat.
Jernej Simoncic leads the race for Bajkoles with Rebellion Williams in second and third position. We still have a titanic race on our hands. The top three here at Le Mans, with a little over an hour to go, are covered by 1 minute, 65 seconds, all to play for. Unannounced, joining the team again after my lunch at Martin Haven with Lewis McGlade and Ben Constantiouris. We sent Chris off to get a little bit of scoff before the end of the race. And Ben, just over an hour left. Now we are in the position that we've been, that the teams and the drivers have been engineering for 22 hours, nearly 23 hours, to be in a position, having avoided misfortune, mistakes, either by the driver or on the pit wall, in terms of when you do your pit stops, mistakes in traffic, getting yourself in a position to fight for victory, for a podium finish in the final hour. For a lot of teams, it's now about surviving to the checkered flag, but for some, who Lady Luck has so far smiled upon, it's about the battle. And so far is actually as important as the fact that Luck has smiled on them at all, because it's not yet done, is it? There's a lot of racing still to go.
It's not, and it's very curious to see that Simoncic again is getting himself out of sequence to the other cars, with Nevsky and Romanidis from Rebellion Williams Esports pitting together on the same lap, but Simoncic looking to go another lap longer. And how crucial will that be when it comes to those last two pit stops for sure for Williams Rebellion Esports? But maybe only, he can't do just one more, surely.
Well, what it will mean is that in total they will need to put less fuel in, so they might be able to put in 1 lap less fuel. That's less weight in the car.
Yep.
They might be able to split that over 2 stints and give him a shorter pit stop for both pit stops, and that gains you seconds, and this race might be won by seconds. Like I said, 65 seconds cover the top 3.
And with an hour and 10 minutes to go, we're expecting roughly it to be 35 minutes a stint. Hour and 10 minutes to go, times that by 2, you're talking an hour and 10 minutes. Now the thing is, if they have to come in for a splash and dash, so just fuel only for the final stop, which is what we would expect, they'll do a full transition, and then the final stop will just be whatever fuel they need to get to the end of the race. Now, for Bajkoles at the moment, that is going to be a shorter stop. Now, that could really, really play into things. Jernej Simoncic is very, very good at saving fuel as well. With him in the car, he can be setting good times. I reckon he could be close to saving that pit stop.
Yes, exactly. Look at it. We're 1 hour and 11 minutes. He's on the back straight. He's at the Mulsanne. So by the time he gets back to pit lane, it's going to be 1 hour and 10 minutes. 2 times 35 is 1 hour and 10 minutes. I think that Bajkoles has only got 1 stop left. Rebellion Williams Esports will need to splash and dash. It is going to be an epic finish to this race.
But the other thing is, he's got a 40-second advantage if they do the short fill now, they gain track position and a bigger time advantage, which builds in a bigger margin of error. So you don't always do it right at the end. We always talk about splash and dash. A short fill is a strategic weapon, just like every other factor in this race. You can do it as early as possible, back timing a full fill from the end of the race, but you take the risk that as the race leader, you might not be able to stop yourself going past the flag for another lap that you hadn't allowed for. So there is a little bit of a gamble in there. You might have pressure from behind so much that you can't slow down and avoid doing that one final lap. So there's so many calculations going on. That's why we talk about it, and the race engineers get paid proper money to decide these things for real. Our race leader by Colles in the pits. So with an hour and 10 minutes, 2:35-minute stops before 4 p.m. Now, don't forget, the race does not finish at 4 p.m. It finishes when the leader gets to the line after, beg your pardon, 3 p.m. Central European Summer Time. So he might pass the line 1 second before 3 p.m. or 5 seconds before 3 p.m. and have to do another 13.6 kilometers, and that might be lap 11 on the stint. So, back timing everything, that is now possibly victory or defeat.
And if they are running that tight together, there won't be any formation finish. There won't be a slow parade to the line. They will be flat out, and they will not want to give up anything. There is the Williams Esports car of Wierzewski going back into the lead of the race as Simoncic sits in the pits. He comes out of the pits now. He should be close to Ramonidis. Let's see if he goes ahead again under pit stops. I doubt it.
Did you see, Lewis, how hard Wisniewski is pushing? He almost fell over that Ferrari in the Dunlop curves. This is now a 1 hour, 9 minute sprint to win the greatest prize ever in real sim motor racing, the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans. This is what it's all been about for the last month of trying, for the last 23 hours of racing.
Rebellion Williams Esports have just been fired an absolute warning shot from Jerne Simoncic. He on that in-lap, and this, for those of you tuning in who don't know sim racing, this is classic Jerne Simoncic. He set the fastest first sector of the entire race with 1 hour and 8 minutes to go. In the first sector on that in-lap, he is pumping in the lap times now. He is keeping very much in control of his car. He's 32.4 seconds off of the race lead, potentially with that splash and dash in hand. Obviously, he might have to save a little bit more fuel to get to the checkered flag, but things are starting to look rosy for Colles Burst Esports.
Don't we think that gap has come down a lot? I'm sure it was much larger than that even between all three drivers last time. Ramonidis has got closer to Wisniewski, so perhaps he did a short fill in this one, and Wisniewski will do a short fill in the next one, and that's brought that whole gap down. But Simoncic has to full fuel to do 2 more stints. And actually, has he got the driver time? Because he's been in that car a lot.
Let me go and have a look.
Again, you know, these are all the factors we just saw in our studio here, didn't we? IDEC Sport had to put one of their drivers back in for 4 laps, Richard Bradley, because he was under the 3 hour 50 minimum drive time. And so, you know, there are all those factors as well. It's about getting to the end first. It's also about making sure you do it legally. Let's catch up with Hayley Edmonds and sim star Jimmy Broadbent.
So I'm live now with Jimmy Broadbent, driver of the 67 car for Mallet Racing team. So Jimmy, how are you doing? Now, we were supposed to do this interview a few hours ago. At that point, you'd only slept 30 minutes. Have you slept any more since then?
No, not yet. Still on the 30 minutes and a couple of pints of coffee in me, which is very race driver, I know.
Okay.
It's going okay, though.
Good to hear. Now, Chris, actually one of our esports commentators, told me that yesterday was quite a special day for you. It was your birthday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, birthday, of course, and then the awesome opportunity to drive in this race, and my YouTube channel that we've been streaming on the entire race has hit 500,000 subscribers. So it was a pretty ridiculous day, I think. Pretty ridiculous indeed. So really cool to get to kind of have that achievement during this event. It kind of felt right.
So would you have ever thought that you'd be celebrating your birthday driving the 24 hours of Le Mans Virtual?
No, usually I spend it alone with a glass of wine, so this is a lot better actually. But yeah, it's probably one of the birthdays I'm going to remember for a while, I think.
I reckon so. So from a sim racer's perspective, because we've been speaking to a lot of drivers, I mean, what's it like for you to participate in such what can only be called a global event that has attracted some of the world's best drivers, notably Alonso, Verstappen, Norris? I mean, what is it like from your point of view?
I mean, first of all, I've said it a few times, it's an absolute privilege to be on this grid and an honour to get to drive alongside people like that. So many, past Le Mans champions and drivers all around the world. I think it lends a great credibility to sim racing, given that the people who are generally quick in the real world are quick here too, and it always feels pretty good when you get to go toe-to-toe with them. It's probably also the reason why we aren't doing so well either. But it's really cool to have that grid here. And I kind of echo what Martin said before. I kind of hope we don't have another one of these races, because I always prefer going to watch the real thing. But this is a fantastic kind of stand-in, I think, and I'm really glad to see people kind of take it as seriously as they have done.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what's been really great about this is the fact that you've really realised how good sim racers really are. And a lot of drivers have been really kind of feeding off their experience, and they've been teaching them. They've had to take a step down to really listen to you guys who've been telling them, this is how you drive a sim and this is what you got to do.
Yeah, I used to be part of a WhatsApp group for another series with the kind of real and sim drivers, and the real drivers were saying, can we not have the sim drivers, please? They're making us look bad, because it's a different sort of skill. The basics are very similar, but it's that little bit different, as Jean-Eric was kind of saying earlier on.
So I know you've already participated in virtual endurance racing, but just tell us about this experience, how it's gone for you thus far, with just over an hour to go until the end of it.
I mean, from a perspective of the races, we were doing okay at the start. We knew we weren't going to be fighting with anyone at the top of the field. We were trying to stay out of trouble, but we had a few technical issues. We've got Robert Wickens driving with us on our team, and he's using hand controls. And he had an unfortunate error where his force feedback, the force on the wheel, was stuck at like 100%, and he has to take one hand off the wheel to brake with his handbrake. So he was having all sorts of issues there. But it's been a bit of a typical race for us, really. We kind of just plod around and just try and get through it. And I think when we cross the line, even though we're down in 18th place or so, it's going to feel like a pretty big achievement.
Of course, yeah, it will be a very big achievement. Well done for the subscribers. Happy belated birthday, and cheers. Thanks a lot, Jimmy.
Thank you very much.
Jimmy Broadbent just starting to show the signs of fatigue a little. He's been up all night helping out the team in every way he can, as you say, particularly because Rob Wickens had that problem with the steering. The other three guys have really had to put in an awful lot of work in that Marla car. Now, there's been a change for fourth place, looking at Loke Hertog in front of us. Alan Tercic, the Slovenian driver in the Corvette, the 64 car, has just been passed on the last lap during that interview for fourth by the Dempsey Proton Porsche. Not yet in a position, though, to challenge for the outright podium. The Dempsey Proton car, it led early on in the race on Saturday, but at the moment Tommy Østgaard leads in the Porsche from the 95 Aston Martin, Lasse Sorensen in second, and Matthias Bech third in the R8G Corvette. So our GTE podium has three different of the four car brands on it at the moment. Again, an hour to go, long way.
Great to hear from Jimmy Broadbent. Just going back to him quickly, I did say that they were supposed to be sharing the car with Jamie Chadwick. Unfortunately, she was unable to join. The official reason for why she's not here, rather than the one I made up, was that she's been offered a real world drive this weekend, and therefore she wasn't unable to attend and commit. So it wasn't about the fact that her pace is not necessarily on the pace of others. It was that she had better things or different things to do. It would have been lovely to have Jamie with us as the W Series champion, but the Richard Mille all-female car is still running, even though Catherine Legge's had all kinds of fun and games out there, and it's Tatiana Calderon who's now aboard that car in 20th spots.
Yeah, Tatiana's shown a lot of pace, I think, and emerging as quite the star in that team. And of course, their sim racer, Emily, has also produced plenty of pace in car number 50. Emily Jones, the Australian sim racer. Sophia Flörsch, the German driver, she too has been very quick. Looking now at our battle in the GT class, 4th and 5th, those are the two drivers. The 88 Porsche at the top of the screen, that's Luke Hartog, and at the bottom of the screen, the 64 Corvette driver. So he is now just about a second and change behind, but the Dempsey Proton Porsche has shown lots of pace in traffic and lots of pace in clean air as well. So they've got a good setup on that car. Looks like they're working hard on that. Pit stop for Jan van der Heide in the Team Rocket Zancho car. They're in 9th place. Jensen Button's team, number 23 car, has just stopped and headed out. Norman Nato also in the pit lane. That he shares with Stoffel van Dorn and their teammates, the number 16 car. That's in 13th place. And at the moment, our lead trio are still on the same lap, 27 seconds, covering the top 3. And in traffic, the Corvette needs that bit of tarmac. The P2 car just had to wait. That's the 36 Senior Tech Alpine Elf car.